18th century factories were woke. Factories put a strong emphasis on hiring women and children over men. Why? It was actually for their skills. Women and children had an ability that strong willed men did not. You see, 90% of factory jobs was to sit and watch something. You looked at the loom, you looked at the fabric, you looked at the belts, you were looking to see for things going out of pattern. It was all about attention to detail, patience, and concentration. It can't be ignored that the last 10% of the job was assisted by tiny fingers. Men who spent their adult lives adding to their skill set didn't see value in this labor. And to be fair, the pay didn't reflect any value. And women and children weren't just hired because of low pay, they were hired because it was easy to be the hero and justify low pay. You see, you weren't hiring children because they're cheap. You were hiring them because you were a good Samaritan who was keeping kids off the streets. Without you, there would be a rise in juvenile crime. And you weren't giving them low pay, you were giving them an opportunity to learn skills that would help them grow as they leave the nest and go to a different factory. And women, you weren't supposed to give them a living wage. Women weren't supposed to support a family. You were just the good Samaritan who was letting women help out their family with a little spending money. And if the children did object to this, well, a bunch of children becoming a mob with little tiny fists, it's kind of easy to put down. And women, they had their own gatekeepers at home. So any gatherings together, well, a labor joke for you. What do you call a group of women who organize in order to improve their labor conditions? A coven of witches. The good news is we banned hiring children. I mean, mostly. Yep, there is no parallel to the modern world. Well, unless you count the fact that the migrant labor force is preferred due to their skills. The non migrant labor force isn't ready for the conditions it takes to be a migrant laborer. And I'm not talking about pay. The migrant labor force is paid what is known as the adverse effect wage rate. The USDA, they set a wage higher than the typical minimum wage in order to make it so that migrant laborers aren't displacing Americans. Quick addendum fact: people ask why farmers voted for Trump. One of the things that farmers had advocated for was a reduction in the adverse effect wage rate. If you're looking for low pay, that's where you look to gigs and interns. See, you're not hiring an unpaid intern, you're giving them experience and exposure. And gig work, that's all about being your own boss and the freedom. So of course you don't get benefits. And fast food jobs, those are for kids. They aren't supposed to get paid a living wage. But that's where it ends. See, there's no rule of threes here, I swear. Of course there is. So, if you notice, gig work by its very nature makes it so workers can't organize. In fact, their wages are micro targeted through a veil of technology, making it near impossible to discuss any semblance of structure. Trying to debate wages of a gig worker is like trying to nail jello to a tree. It's always changing, and the moment you think you're able to talk with any numbers or any semblance of a fact, the terms and conditions will simply change. Labor is this way because the moment you figure out the answer, they're going to change the question. But it's been this way since the 1600s.